Idolatry is the worship of an idol or a physical object as a representation of a god. In all the Abrahamic religions, idolatry is strongly forbidden, although views as to what constitutes idolatry differ within and between them. In other religions, the use of idols is accepted. Which images, ideas, and objects constitute idolatry is often a matter of considerable contention. Behavior considered idolatrous or potentially idolatrous may include the creation of any type of image of the deity, or of other figures of religious significance such as prophets, saints, and clergy, the creation of images of any person or animal at all, and the use of religious symbols, or secular ones. In addition, Christian theologians, following St. Paul, have extended the concept to include giving undue importance to other aspects of religion, or to non-religious aspects of life in general, with no involvement of images specifically. For example, the Catechism of the Catholic Church states, "Idolatry not only refers to false pagan worship. Man commits idolatry whenever he honors and reveres a creature in place of God, whether this be gods, or demons, power, pleasure, race, ancestors, the state, money, etc." In some ultra-conservative Islamic societies with Sharia law, idolaters may face the death penalty. The avoidance of the use of images for religious reasons is called aniconism. The destruction of religious images within a culture is called iconoclasm, of which there have been many major episodes in history. Etymology. The word idolatry comes from the Greek word epsilon delta omega lambda omicron lambda alpha tau rho iota alpha. Idolatry parasynthetically from epsilon delta omega lambda omicron lambda alpha tau rho eta sigma from epsilon delta omega lambda omicron nu idolon, image, figure, and the suffix lambda alpha tau rho eta sigma, itself related to lambda alpha tau rho iota sigma latris, worshipper, or lambda alpha tau rho epsilon 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 iota nu latruin, to worship, from lambda alpha tau rho omicron nu latron, payment. Although the Greek appears to be a lone translation of the Hebrew phrase avodat Elohim, which is attested in rabbinic literature, the Greek term itself is not found in the Septuagint, Philo, Josephus, or in other Hellenistic Jewish writings. It is also not found in Greek literature. In the New Testament, the Greek word is found only in the letters of Paul, 1 Peter, 1 John, and Revelation, where it has a derogatory meaning, as one of the vices. It is also found in the Didache, and the Apostolic Decree includes a prohibition from the pollution of idols. Hebrew terms for idolatry include avodah zarah and avodat kochevim u'mazalit. In modern English, idol, and the verb idolize, are often used outside the religious field as a loose metaphor, sometimes intending a degree of disapproval, as in teen idol. Christianity. The Christian view of idolatry may generally be divided into two general categories: the Catholic, Orthodox view and the Protestant view. Protestants often accuse Catholics of idolatry, iconolatry, and even paganism for failing to cleanse their faith of the use of images. In the Protestant Reformation, such language was common to all Protestants. Puritan groups adopted a view similar to Judaism, denouncing all forms of religious objects, whether in three-dimensional or two-dimensional form, including the Christian cross. The first commandment of 10 Commandments, "You shall have no other gods before me. You shall not make for yourself a graven image, or any likeness of anything that is in heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. You shall not bow down to them or serve them." Exodus chapter 20 verses 2-5. And also in, "Ye shall make you no idols nor graven image, neither rear you up a standing image, neither shall ye set up any image of stone in your land, to bow down unto it. For I am the Lord your God." Leviticus chapter 26 verse 1. To a Protestant, the Bible teaches that an idol is anything that is more important than God. Anything, whether physical or not, that is more important to a Christian than God is an idol. This includes items, family and work. To a Christian, God must come first in all things, and by putting Him first, they are in a better position to love and serve others. The Roman Catholic and particularly the Orthodox Churches cite St. John of Damascus a work on the divine image to defend the use of icons. He wrote in direct response to the Byzantine iconoclasm that began in the 8th century by the Byzantine Emperor Leo III and continued by his successor, Constantine V. St. John maintains that depicting the invisible God is indeed wrong, but he argues that the Incarnation, where the Word became flesh, indicates that the invisible God became visible, and as a result it is permissible to depict Jesus Christ. He argues, when he who is bodiless and without form, existing in the form of God, empties himself and takes the form of a servant in substance and in stature and is found in a body of flesh, then you draw his image. He also observes that in the Old Testament, images and statues were not absolutely condemned in themselves. Examples include the images of cherubim over the Ark of the Covenant, which God instructed Moses to make, the embroidered figures of cherubim angels that God told Moses to make on the curtain that separated the Holy of Holies in the tabernacle tent, or the bronze serpent mentioned in the Book of Numbers. He defends external acts of honor towards icons, arguing that there are different kinds of worship, and that the honor shown to icons differs entirely from the adoration of God. He continues by citing Old Testament examples of forms of honor. Jacob bowed to the ground before Esau, his brother, and also before the tip of his son Joseph's staff. He bowed down, but did not adore. Joshua, the son of Nun, and Daniel bowed in veneration before an angel of God, but they did not adore him. For adoration is one thing, and that which is offered in order to honor something of great excellence is another. He cites St. Basil, who asserts, the honor given to the image is transferred to its prototype. St. John argues therefore that venerating an image of Christ does not terminate at the image itself. The material of the image is not the object of worship, rather it goes beyond the image, to the prototype. Catholic and Orthodox Christians use religious objects such as statues, crosses, icons, incense, the Gospel, Bible, candles and religious vestments. Icons are mainly in two but rarely in three-dimensional form. These are in dogmatic theory venerated as objects filled with God's grace and power. Evidence for the use of these is found in the Old Testament and in early Christian worship. For example, the veneration of the tombs and statues of martyrs was common among early Christian communities. In 397 St. Augustine of Hippo, in his Confession 6.2.2, tells the story of his mother making offerings for the statues and tombs of martyrs. This is a very early form of Christianity, as the biblical canon had only been adopted about 30 years previously at the Council of Laodicea. However, see Development of the Christian Biblical Canon for details. The offering of veneration in the form of latreia is doctrinally forbidden by the Orthodox Church. However, veneration of religious pictures or icons in the form of dulia is not only allowed but obligatory. Some outside observers find it difficult to distinguish these two levels of veneration in practice, but the distinction is maintained and taught by believers in many of the hymns and prayers that are sung and prayed throughout the liturgical year. In Orthodox apologetics for icons, a similarity is asserted between icons and the manufacture by Moses of the bronze snake, which was, Orthodoxy says, given the grace and power of God to heal those bitten by real snakes. And Moses made a serpent of brass, and put it upon a pole, and it came to pass, that if a serpent had bitten any person, when he beheld the serpent of brass, they lived. Another similarity is declared with the Ark of the Covenant described as the ritual object above which Yahweh was present, or the burning bush. which, according to Exodus, God spoke to Moses through, or the Ten Commandments, which were the Word of God in tablet form. These inanimate objects became a medium by which God worked to teach, speak to, encourage and heal the Hebrew faithful. Veneration of icons through proskynesis was codified in the Seventh Ecumenical Council during the Byzantine iconoclast controversy, in which St. John of Damascus was pivotal. Icon veneration is also practiced in the Catholic Church, which accepts the declarations of the Seventh Ecumenical Council, but it is practiced to a lesser extent, since Latin Rite Catholics today do not usually prostrate and kiss icons, and the Second Vatican Council enjoined moderation in the use of images. Eastern Rite Catholics still use icons in the Divine Liturgy, however. Some Protestant groups avoid the use of images in any context suggestive of veneration. Religious images are common in Catholic, Orthodox churches. The use of some religious images and symbols, for example in printed matter, is now more common among many modern Protestant groups than was the case in the 16th century, but large publicly displayed images, except the cross, are rare. Many conservative Christians avoid any use of religious images, even for inspiration, as idolatry. For know you this and understand, that no fornicator or unclean or covetous person hath inheritance in the kingdom of Christ and of God. Ephesians chapter 5:5. The body of Christ on the cross is an ancient symbol used within the Catholic, Eastern Orthodox, Anglican, and Lutheran churches, in contrast with some Protestant groups, which use only a simple cross. In Judaism and Islam, such a depiction of God as crucified man is seen as idolatry. Hinduism allows for many forms of worship and therefore it neither prescribes nor prescribes worship of images or idols. In Hinduism, a murti typically refers to an image that expresses a divine spirit, meaning literally, embodiment. A murti is a representation of a divinity, made usually of stone, wood, or metal, which serves as a means through which a divinity may be worshipped. Hindus consider a murti worthy of serving as a focus of divine worship only after the divine is invoked in it for the purpose of offering worship. The depiction of the divinity must reflect the gestures and proportions outlined in religious tradition. A murti is a means of communication with the god or Brahman in Hinduism. Murti is a Sanskrit term meant to point to the transcendent otherness of the divine. Therefore the word murti cannot be substituted with or translated as statue or idol without losing the underlying concept's inherent meaning and taking on unrelated connotations. Islam strongly prohibits all form of idolatry, which is part of the sin of shirk. According to one conservative Islamic source, Sharia law indicates that it is obligatory to destroy idols. Shirk is often translated into the English term polytheism, and is the vice that is opposed to the virtue of tawhid, literally, declaring that which is one. Sir comes from the Arabic root srk, with the general meaning of to share. In the context of the Quran, the particular sense of sharing as an equal partner is usually understood, so that polytheism is attributing a partner to Allah. In the Quran, shirk and the related word mushrikun, those who commit shirk and plot against Islam, often clearly refers to the enemies of Islam, but sometimes it also refers to erring Muslims. Within Islam, shirk is an unforgivable crime. God may forgive any sin except for committing shirk. In practice, especially among strict conservative interpretations of Islam, the term has been greatly extended and means deification of anyone or anything other than the singular God. It may be used very widely to describe behavior that does not literally constitute worship, including use of images of sentient beings, building a structure over a grave, associating partners with God, giving his characteristics to others beside him, or not believing in his characteristics.